Hello everyone, Zelleranth here, and for today's video on Umamusume, as we're approaching the month of April, like I always like to do at the end of the month, I like to kind of take a look at what's coming up and talk about poll priorities to some form or extent every single month. And so for this video, I think I might do it a little bit different. We're going to just focus mostly on the April poll, since the last one I kind of just looked at everything through Make a New Track / Trackblazer as it was getting ready to, or as it launched. And so with this one, we're going to focus mostly on the April, the UMAs, as well as the support cards as they're coming out, as expected through the month of April. Now, we haven't got the schedule yet, but we do have the timeline that gives a good general idea of what we can expect. Now, I will be going all the way through the ballroom banners up to basically the very first one that's going to come out in May, just in case the acceleration brings them into April, which would be with the Major Palmer banner. Now, one of the things that I've found interesting with April is this is where we're going to start to see what I find to be that more track-specific UMAs, as well as some position-specific support cards coming out. We've gotten a little bit of taste of it here and there, but it becomes a lot more apparent, especially on the UMAs, as we go through April, especially if you're like a more medium spender and you're like me and trying to pick up all those meta UMAs to give yourself the best shots on all the champions meetings. And generally that's going to come with having these more track specific UMAs. And so with that, we'll just go ahead and get right into it. We'll go over it. Now, this isn't going to be heavy in depth on everything. That'll be coming with the actual specific banner that's focused on it when they're coming up. But we'll get enough details to give you a general idea of what you want to pull here. And so the very first one I have coming up, you've probably already heard about this one with us currently doing the long champions meetings with the Hanshin 3200. We have a Seiun Sky ballroom and Fuji Kiseki ballroom. Now, Seiun Sky is the biggest one that a lot of people are going to focus on, as she's very similar to Kita-san Black in her alt. We don't have to go in too much into details in it, but the same basic situation where if you're on the backstretch straight away, she can ult, so perfect timing on your longs. It has an acceleration and a speed increase tied to it, and when inherited, while the acceleration is not as strong, it's only 0.07, still a very good inherit for your frontrunners on longs, because you're kind of in the same situation with Kita-san Black. While it's strong on her herself, it's only a 0.1 acceleration as an inherit. And so the general strategy is to have both Ballroom, Seiun Sky, and Kita-san Blacks on your front runner for longs to give a 0.17 speed increase, which is pretty close to the acceleration you would get on a corner with angling and scheming from the original Seiun Sky. And so she's a really good pickup. Now, we basically have the champions meeting starting, or already have started by the time she drops. And so if you're really wanting to put in that effort to make that front runner with her ult, or get this ult on Kita-san Black, or build her as an ace, just know you're going to have very minimal time. You're going to be building her basically during, I believe, round 2, based on when we expect her to drop. And it's a lot of effort, especially if you need a parent version of her, because not only do you have to make her a parent, but then you got to use her and to get that ace run. And if you've already been doing the Trackblazer enough as it is, you can already tell it's very up and down depending on whether you get a really, really good roll or a really, really bad roll. But definitely a great pickup for future longs. Now, we will not be having another one in Trackblazer. So now she's just like Kita-san Black. While she's her strongest at longs, she does have conditions to make her work in some of the other types as well. And so if you're just a Seiun Sky enjoyer, you have her for that. But just take the OG Seiun Sky for all the others, because hers is angling and scheming with that really strong acceleration. But she does have Gold, Leader's Pride, and Escaped Artist. I will say she's, to me, stronger on the mid game just for that respect. But nothing else too crazy. Mostly for me, a meta inherit for my long front runners. Now, we go to the next one on here, Fuji Kiseki. Nothing too crazy with the ballroom. To me personally, the original is the better one, especially when it comes to the inherit, because it's going to be like one of your front runner. It's more of a front runner triumphant pulse, like from the original Ogre cap, because it can be activated from first place when it gets its full buff. It still works like that right now, but the conditions are still a little bit janky compared to what it'll get buffed to. This one's another one, though, that does have some value with it being another 0.45 just a little bit more difficult to trigger as it requires passing another runner. And it's on the final corner or later. But it still is pretty decent in that respect. I don't really like the golds. I mean, she has the gold version of Trick from the front. She has head-on built-in Speed Star, so I won't say she's like absolutely terrible, but I would just go with the OG one over this for sure. But if you're pulling for Seiun Sky, you may end up picking her up. She has potential. I mean, just because the ult is a decent enough inherit, because she has that triple A, with it being a turf, a mile, a pace, and she can basically do all the distances. And if you want to down the line, you can get dirt. If you don't have the OG one and you have this one, a very good parent potential in that respect. And she has good stat bonuses. So overall, not a terrible pickup while you're going for your Seiun Sky Ballroom, but I would not pull specifically for her. Going into the support cards here, we have basically the Ballroom support card banner. So it comes with 2 SSRs. You probably haven't heard too much on this one because neither of these are like must-have meta picks. But they are, I mean, you're starting to see that more niche cards. We've seen this with a lot of others, like Sprints had like Curran Chan Wit. To me, unless you were like a big whale or Leviathan, that was a easy skip because you had Nice Nature and Fine Motion pickups for your Wit cards. And so you're going to see that with a lot of these other ones where they're more situational borrows, in my opinion, even as a spender. And so this one does have race bonus 10%. It is a stamina card. So you're really only... Now, we have 3 mediums that we'll be having, but you can... To me, in Track Blazer, you're going to want to go all in on speed, power, and wit on your support cards. You can just generally get enough of the stamina for the mediums with those builds, especially if you have built-in heal if you really are going to need one. But personally, I would try and avoid needing a heal just in general. But this one actually does pretty decent. It has medium skills. It is focused at mediums. You may have used the Simply Rudolph support card before when it came to debuffers, because she does have all those debuffs still built in. So this would be like for trying to make that hybrid debuffer. Personally, I don't like doing that, especially if you're trying to take all of these ones. I'd rather just make a really strong ace in general. But the one thing I say that's okayish on it, I wouldn't consider it very good, but if you really wanted to heal, that's a little bit more situational, but also has a speed increase. You have Burning Soul. Now, it requires you to be within 7th and 3rd place, but it gives you that 0.035 heal, which is kind of that in-between. It's not a white, but it's not as strong as a gold. But the one other big thing is it does give you a 0.35 speed increase on it. So it's kind of a pretty decent one. Not as long of a duration. So it's kind of, I don't like these as much, but if you're absolutely in need of one, I mean, this is potential there. But I would only look at that as a borrow, and even then, there's a lot better options, in my opinion, on the borrows, like something like Narita Bryan Stamina, which gives Beeline Burst. And so definitely not one that I would pull for. And then you have the Wit card here. Another one that, I mean, you have Fine Motion and Nice Nature that you should have for your Wit cards if you're a spender. But this one is, another one does have the 10% race bonus on it. Nothing too crazy in it. It is more of another medium type one, but for your late surgers. And I would say the biggest factor on this one is From the Brink. I don't really like this skill. It's just another gamble. Acceleration. It is a 0.4, and it's first phase, first half random for the late race. So like this alongside On Your Left basically gives you 2 gambles. I just prefer consistency. I don't like going heavy in on the gamble, but that's what that one's bringing. Nothing to me that's worth pulling on this banner, even though it is a double SSR banner. But then right after that one, we come into Nishino Flower. This one is going to be a big pickup for me. And anyone that uses Pace Chasers or likes Pace Chasers, as this is, we don't really have to go too much into depth on hers, but it is just another, it's kind of like a Majiro Ryan for pace, and potentially late surgers, from what I understand, down the line, depending on the tracks, in that it is a gamble, well, not a gamble, but it is a more consistent acceleration that they can use as an inherit. You just got to think of it as being similar to Major Orion. It's not always going to be good, but it's going to be good in a decent amount of times. She does have Beeline Burst, Determined Descent built into her. I don't really see myself using her as an ace herself, more as an inherit Uma. But, I mean, I wouldn't consider her completely terrible on the tracks that are good for Determined Descent. But it is another gamble acceleration on that one. But very good pickup for an inherit. And she is still relevant today in JP as a parent inherit. So picking her up here or picking her up eventually when she gets added to the legend races will be something you want to target. And then after that, now we're not going to be looking at any of the SR cards. At this point, Admire Vega Guts was basically the last big SR that has relevancy in terms of pulling and wanting to kind of think about whether or not you want to use crystals on it. Now, there may be some potentials that you get down the line, especially if you're newer or free to play, that could have some potential, but there's no reason to go into them because you're not going to want to pull specifically for them. We're only going to look at the SRs here. We have Daiwa's Scarlet Power here, and we have my cat deciding to join me right now while I go over this. Daiwa's Scarlet is an interesting one, as she is a power card. I could see this one being, if you like your Pace Chasers, a one for a more whaley, heavier spender to pull for. Ash, she does have the 10% race bonus. She has 2 power bonus. She does have stamina bonus, initial power 30, like pretty decent on the stat stick. And just like the other Daiwa Scarlet cards, we have Prepared to Pass, Pace Chaser Corners, Straight Descent. But I think the biggest thing that can make this one stand out is Neck and Neck, which is the gold version of Head On. One of your gamble skills, like for sprints. I mean, this one can be used on any of them, but sprints, I think sprints and miles would be the one that has the biggest advantage. My cat is going all over the place. So to me, this is going to be a borrow card for my Pace Chasers when I build them on, if I build one, especially for the sprint. But I personally, there's so many other cards that are super strong coming up. The Polvor and power cards are still, while they're gonna feel pretty good right now in Track Blazer, they're still kind of gonna, they're not as important as, say, your speed and wit cards. So, but I would say of the niche ones, this is probably the best ones of the bunch in April. And then we go into the Uma here coming after that. Muteki, and she's just basically her support card in an Uma, mostly. I really do, I like her stat bonuses here with 20% power. I love my power bonus. And then depending on if you're wanting to go guts build, she has the guts there. Although not having speed bonus kind of sucks. If you wanted to go guts build, I would prefer it to be 10 and 20 with that. But you can make her work there. Nothing crazy on the alts, just one of your typical speed increase, passing somebody on the corner. It's only a 0.35. Not bad, but not like a crazy good, consistent one like some other Umas. And has mostly medium stuff built into her kit. And as you can see with her aptitudes, also focused on mediums, with A being her only medium. She is pace and late A with turf. Although she is dirt E and long E, meaning you can make her work in both of these fairly easily with the sparks. But, I mean, with unyielding being a medium skill and it's on, as an ace, I would go for mediums. And I really don't see strong parent potential in her, just because I don't like having 2 A's on the strategy. But that's Muteki. Nothing really too much there. Unless she's an Oshi, I would not pull for her. We have a rerun of Ines Fujin Twin Turbo. I wouldn't pull on these. I mean, Ines Fujin Guts Build's very, very strong. I like her. I will be trying out Guts Build potentially on some of the Champions meetings, because that has your built-in heal with Restless for your front runners. But at this point, if you didn't luck out into getting her, I don't think she's worth it to that extent. And the same reason that I said that you shouldn't pull for Admire Vega Guts on the NTR banner, in that while the Guts build can be strong, it's not mandatory, and you definitely want to save your pulls. So easy skip on this rerun banner. Then we come to an interesting one. I've always kind of glazed over this one when covering on priority pulls, but if you're a late surger enjoyer, this is going to be one that's going to have a very track specific Uma. First, we'll take a look at Nice Nature. Both of them are actually good. I feel like this is a good banner for pulling on, just because one, I like the ones that have 2 Umas on them, but then also it has meta inherit, as well as just generally, in my opinion, some stronger Umas. Nice Nature, this is going to be, she's got your Dominator plus No Stopping Me, so more of a medium, which we're going to have 3 mediums in Track Blazer Uma. And I feel like moving away from the normal Nice Nature, if you're a Nice Nature enjoyer with your debuffs, mediums, people are going to have a lot easier time now in Track Blazer having enough stamina. And if you're wanting to go the debuff route, Dominator is the way to go. And then having No Stopping Me can make it where not only can you be a debuffer, but have a decent, strong potential of making a gambling one to try and make overall take the win on them. Thinking you can have like On Your Left, No Stopping Me. Maybe you can borrow the other late surger card that has the medium gamble excel alongside it. So she can be a very strong dominator, debuffer dominator, while also having a decent gamble chance of being able to take the win as well. Pretty decent alt here. So overall, I think she'll be, for late surger enjoyers, a very good one for your mediums. But the other one, the one that I would say why you would really pull on this for meta purposes, is going to be King Halo. And this is the first one that is really track specific. We're going to see a couple of these. Basically, the next few coming up are all track specific. And so this King Halo, she is, I really like her stat bonuses on her. 10% speed, 10% power, 10% guts. She's just screaming, do the guts build. You have the other thing with Nice Nature being a turf, a short, a late. So she, to me, is really good on sprint parent making, just because easier to get turf. But she can do basically all the other tracks. She can do mile and medium and even long. So very good in track players in that respect. But what's making her really good, especially in the upcoming champions meetings that the mile champions meetings, is her alt. And so this one is basically if she is in the back half of the Uma, so basically the 6th through 9th place, and she doesn't get rushed, she then will get a 4.4 acceleration on the final straight. And so when I say this is a very situational, it's going to be basically all the ones that start on a straight in the late race or are like right there. And so the main one that is specific to it that'll be coming up will be our rerun of Gemini Cup, which is Tokyo Turf 1600. And so I just have that track already up and ready to go here. This is the one that was Cancer Cup on our last time we came here for our champions meetings. As you can see, yes, it starts on a corner, so angling was very strong here. This is right when we got Seiun Sky. But that straightaway, if you remember your end closers with Encroaching Shadow, very strong here because they had a consistent acceleration on that straightaway. You can say the same thing now with King Halo. Now, she has some conditions. She cannot get rushed, and she has to stay in the back half for the entirety of the first half. So you have to kind of build around that. So it can be a unique build, but very strong in that respect that you have a consistent acceleration. If at least you meet that requirement, she's going to hit it. And it lasts 4 seconds. Oops. It lasts 4 seconds instead of the 0.9 of the Encroaching Shadow. So this, like with this one, like alongside On Your Left. And then if you have the card, if you got really lucky pulling for Nice Nature and you have like Ogre Cat power, you can use that to get Furious Feet, another mile specific one. You can make her very strong on potentially being able to have massive acceleration on that straightaway. And then I do like her skills. I mean, the Tokyo one we have coming up is going to be a spring one. And as I mentioned, you do not want to be you want to stay in the back that entire first half of the race. So you want to build around not pushing up early on. instead kind of staying in the back. So you don't need as strong as an early race or even mid-race, early mid-race. And that's why I like she has built-in Rising Dragon on the outside on the final corner. Key thing there, another Tokyo specific one. Final corner is basically right when you're getting to the second half. So Rising Dragon is not one of those ones that's going to push you up into 5th place or forward and completely kill her ult. So she has like the main late surger skill that is really good for that. And then Spring Spectacle being a way to get you some extra power and speed on that. And then if you think about that, pairing that one with for Tokyo is left-handed, you can get some massive speed increase. Plus with firm conditions, you can now get so you can basically get 120 on both your speed and power. So really good there. So to me, if you like your late surgers, she's going to be meta for that, especially on the inherit overall. A little bit more in depth on that one, just because I haven't really talked about her much when I covered her in the past. But I think she's very, very good for that. And then also sprints. I mean, she'll be good on sprints. Not all of them. There's the one that we just had, which was basically on the straightaway, which she can be good for. The next one, not so much, because it's going to be on a corner, but she will be situationally good there as well. So that one's that. And then we get to the next banner after that. This is another niche borrow support card type banner. We have Bamboo Memory Guts. This one is basically a Guts card for Miles and Miles only, and Guts build really is going to fall off after Trackblazer. Now, Guts cards will come back on other scenarios, but by that time that happens, this card's going to be severely power crept. So this one's only going to be good on the Mile Champions Meetings in Trackblazer. Pretty decent overall gold skill here. Does have speed bonus, gut bonus. Decent friendship, has to race bonus 10%. If you're doing Guts build and you were lucked out on Admire Vega Guts SR on the NTR banner, I mean, you just borrow. This is just your borrow card with the Guts build. You take the Admire Vega, you take this card, then you take one of your other Guts cards, and then you have your speed and 2 wit. So definitely an easy skip specifically for that one, because this is only good for one Champions Meetings. And then you, of course, have the speed card tied to it. There's already been so many strong speed cards we've talked about. Summer Mruzensky's coming up. Agnes Tachyon, speed paired with Light Hello. Hopefully you have Kita-san Black, maybe Fuku, Biko Pegasus, NTR. This is just another one. We don't need to go all into it. It's an okay stat stick on it. But the gold one here is another late surger. So this is a late surger one that has an acceleration speed increase tied to it, but it's the entirety of the second half of the race. Not all that good. Not a card to pull for. So an easy skip banner there. Now we get to Ines Fujin, which is going to be another frontrunner and another track specific. We're going to, like I said at the beginning, we're going to see more and more of these types of Umas. Don't really go into depth on her. She is a frontrunner, as you can kind of see here, has a lot of frontrunner skills. She's built primarily for one specific race. And as you look at her ult, she increases velocity when positioned towards the front with about 300 meters remaining. If coming out of an uphill on that 300 meters, greatly, which is a 0.45. And there's one track that comes out of an uphill at 300 meters, and that is at Tokyo 2400. Now, there's multiple races that do it. It's the Japanese Derby, and Japan Cup, and the other one that's alongside Japanese Oaks, I believe is the name. So you have the uphill right here that ends at 2100. It's 2400 meters. And so at 300 meters, basically you're going to hit that 300 meters at the very end of this one, and thus you will trigger her greatly instead of her normal speed increase on this one. And so she is built specifically for that. Tokyo 2400 has, and around that she has everything pretty much decently in there. Slipstream, you have Tokyo Race Course, you have a new skill. I don't believe we've had this one anywhere yet, with All My Soul. And then she has the gold version of that, which is a medium specific. I feel like she can be pretty strong for this. Not only do you get a big speed increase of 0.35, and it's not a super long duration of 1.8 seconds, but you get the speed increase But she also decreases the current speed of the 5 closest girls behind you. And so she just, it's like basically like a speed eater, which she also has, but for mediums. And then also she has the heal restless for it. And now she does not have groundwork built in, so you will have to get that. But she does have dodging danger playtimes over. And then being a Tokyo specialist, you have your Tokyo stamina. And so you got a little bit of the stuff built in. You just mainly have to get groundwork. I feel like she will be one of your strongest for the Tokyo 2400. You might be hearing my dogs in the background. I think my wife just got home and they're barking. So track specialist. To me, skip. But I mean, if you like front runners, you like Ines Fujin, she will be strong for Tokyo 2500, and she's usable in the others, of course. But Tokyo 2500 is where you want to use her. So we're getting to the last banners here, basically at the end. Major L. Palmer will be the last one we'll talk about. Mr. CB Wit, we've talked enough about this one, I feel like. But your end closer Wit card, you only need 1 limit break to really get the full value out of the card. Has a lot of good stuff in it for your end closers. The biggest thing being Daring Strike, which you right now have to get from Admire Vega Power. Pretty overall good card. And then the last one, Major Earl Palmer. And she's more of another long front runner. Now, we already know our 2 main big ones we have with Kita-san Black and Seiun Sky Ballroom. And you just want their inherits for the acceleration. She's pretty much got everything else you want for it. But there's another thing that makes her unique. And you won't be useful in Track Blazer, as we won't be having any more longs. But, I mean, you couldn't build her that way anyway. And that is because she is a runaway. So I believe she's our second runaway. We have Silent Suzuka, now we have her, but she is specialized in longs. Now, as you can see, a long A, a medium A, turf A. She has an ult that I'd say it's similar to Silent Suzuka's. Second half of the race gets a speed increase for 6 seconds of 0.25, but also has a 0.055 heal. So she basically has a gold heal built in, which you definitely want on your runaways. Now, if you're doing a long and you run into another runaway and you spot battle, I mean, that's going to pretty much kill you. But if she's on her own, that's pretty strong alongside pairing it with another heal. You have playtimes over. You have keeping the lead. You have See You Later, which is the gold version of playtimes over, and then Vanguard Spirit, which really has been bad overall on your front runners because of the distance you need to really activate it. But being a runaway has its value there. On the one I see, the track that I basically see her being the most useful on is going to be the Arima Keenan. We've already seen how well, like we've seen decently built Silent Suzuka's on it. I feel like she can be even stronger there. Has front runner savvy. She doesn't have groundwork built in though, but you pretty much have your greens with runaway, front runner savvy. And then of course, you're going to want taking the lead and maybe potentially a concentration. So, overall, pretty good, but track specific to longs. And to me personally, runaway, Arima Keenan, I wouldn't really want to try and make it work with the 3200 ones we'll have in the future. As you're already seeing, you're already probably struggling with stamina enough as it is, let alone doing it on a runaway. But that is pretty much it for everything that we can expect coming through April. After that, we'll be going into, we'll have Curran-chan and all them. But to me, the month of April is not too crazy for a lot of people. A lot of big Uma pickups, in my opinion, is the biggest thing. If you're wanting to try and always keep up with the meta, which if you're free to play, just know, you don't need to always be getting on top of the meta newest Umas that are great at every track. You're gonna blow through your carrots too quickly. I feel like the biggest pickups are gonna be Nishino Flower and then King Halo, because when it comes to picking up Umas Army, especially if you are an Oshi enjoyer, the other Umas you want to pick up outside of your Oshi are the ones that can make your Oshi stronger, which are the meta inherits, which King Halo and Nishino Flower have, as well as Seiun Sky Ballroom, of course, for your longs. But yeah, that is everything we can kind of expect through April. We should here in, I think, 3 days, get our get the actual confirmation of all these coming out. Like I said, Major Palmer herself might be in May. It just depends on how the banner or how everything lines up with the acceleration of the schedule. But yeah, that'll be it for now. And if you like my content, if you can like, comment, subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.